Hello, good people. Thank you for tuning once again today. I'm so happy and I'm very glad to have you around in the house today. Today we are looking at the history of ABBA. You know, ABBA is the Swedish pop group that was formed in 1960s, and today we are giving you a chronology of events of how the four became one, and this is a very wonderful documentary. So guys, if this is your first time tuning, please press that subscription button and also the notification bell so that next time you will be able to get these cool videos. And also to our returning friends, I do say thank you so much and be blessed. So just relax and have a seat as we're gonna take some time and we enjoy this documentary. So guys, let us jump straight away into this documentary.
This is what we're going to launch. Her voice was fantastic. It's a star for tomorrow.
That was the first gig with Benny. Remember that night very well. I want my best buddy with me, Björn Ulvaeus. And I said, okay, well, take him with you.
She was a great singer when it came to old standards.
I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. Well, I can dance with you, honey, if you think it's funny. Does your mother know that you're out? And I can chat with you, baby. You can dance. You can jive.
The remote country of Sweden had no place in the international pop landscape before ABBA burst on the scene to become one of the biggest pop bands of the 70s. But it was hardly a matter of overnight success for Agnetha, Björn, Benny and Frida. ABBA's journey towards stardom began in small towns and rural villages, and the group and their manager encountered many stumbling blocks on their way to global fame. At the height of ABBA's fame, Björn Ulvaeus was a confident pop star who performed live in front of audiences from America to Australia. But his musical roots were far removed from the catchy pop tunes that caught the world's imagination.
Here we go. Hey, Pensola, catch me.
Björn was born in April 1945 and grew up in the town of Västervik. Björn was in his early teens when he got his first guitar and joined his cousin's skiffle band. Hansi Schwarz, the leader of folk music group The Partners, desperately needed someone who could play bass. And when Björn's skiffle band split up, Hansi asked their bass player to join his band.
He said, yes, okay, I will join that group, but I want my best buddy with me, Björn Ulvaeus. Okay, we were three, and I thought of 4 people was enough. And I said, okay, well, take him with you.
Come back, Liza, come back, girl. Wipe the tear from me eye.
We became real good friends. That is, I think, something very special.
Although Björn was the youngest member of the Partners, he soon became a driving force within the group.
Already by that time, he did know what he wanted.
If I'd have known that the captain was blind, I wouldn't have got to work until at 9:30, darling.
We did the arrangements together, even if we had opposite ideas of music. I was the folky one, he was the poppy one. But he came with the good ideas.
I asked the captain for the time of day.
As one of Sweden's best-loved composers, Benny Andersson has colored his songs with everything from classical music to rock and roll. But his love of music came through the simple folk tunes he heard while he was growing up. Benny was born in the capital of Stockholm in 1946. Benny's father and grandfather both played the accordion. When Benny was 6, he got an accordion of his own, and a few years later a piano. Music was everything for Benny. By 1964, he was 17 years old and playing the organ in a band that was going nowhere fast, but still had the occasional gig. The Hepstars was an up-and-coming Stockholm band whose singer, Sven Hedlund, would sometimes drive other bands to their gigs to earn some extra money.
I was asked one Saturday that I was off with the Hepstars to drive another band down south to play in the folk park. And in that group played Benny. I found out that Benny was extremely good keyboard player.
When the Hepstars lost their own keyboard player, Sven knew who would be a good replacement.
We should try and make a call to this guy, Benny. And he said yes immediately. We went to the school dance, and that was the first gig with Benny. I remember that night very well. He came dressed up like a schoolboy, and we were more like mods.
The Hepstars were already well known for their wild stage show, and despite Benny's well-mannered appearance, he got into the spirit of things even at that first gig.
We had a lot of fun because he found out that we moved a lot, so he did. And finally, after he'd been in the group for a couple of months, he added to that organ a little carriage with wheels on, so we could be all around the stage with that organ. In the beginning, I think he was a little bit shy because I don't think the life around the group he was in before was the same as around us.
No more carefree laughter.
With her special blend of drama and wistfulness, Anni-Frid Lyngstad, better known as Frida, would keep ABBA's audience in a firm grip on records and in live shows.
Walking through an empty house, tears in my eyes.
But in her early years, there was nothing to suggest that her life would be such a success story.
We leave you, darling, a drama. We kissed in a field of wine.
Frida was born in Norway in 1945, the offspring of a German soldier and a Norwegian girl during World War II. With her grandmother, Frida moved to Sweden and the town of Torshälla. She was still a young girl when she sang on stage for the first time. In her early teens, she started singing in a local dance band. By the time the band split up, Frida had already acquired quite a reputation among her fellow musicians.
The first time I heard Anne-Frid, she was 15 years old, in a school dance. And it was marvelous.
At the age of 16, Frida started singing with Bengt Sandlund's big band, who would play dance music in the folk parks.
She was a little bit shy, but we didn't think of it because she was so professional.
One of the other members of Bengt Sandlunds was a young man named Ragnar Fredriksson. Frida and Ragnar soon became romantically involved. When the big band split up, they joined forces with Gunnar Sandevärn to form a smaller combo.
We rehearsed almost every day. She rang and said, "Gunnar, we have to rehearse. Are you coming?" "Yes." She was wife, mother, and she sewed her own clothes. And we were playing almost every night. Late in bed, early up in the mornings. These 2.5 years we played together were very hard.
The band would appear at restaurants and folk parks, and each gig kept Frida fully occupied, even when she wasn't singing.
I sat down with the piano and played some standards, and Frida sat down at the drums, took the vicious and
You seem so far away, though you were standing near. You made me feel alive, but something died, I fear. I really tried.
As the blonde singer in ABBA, Agnetha Fältskog would captivate audiences across the world with songs that shifted between charming innocence and devastating heartbreak. But she started out as a singer and songwriter in her own right.
So when you're near me, darling, can't you hear me? SOS. Jag vet att jag såg dig på stan igår. Du log och du tog min hand. Men sedan
Agnetha was born in 1950 in the town of Jönköping. Agnetha, whose father was an amateur cabaret performer, started playing the piano at the age of 5, and in her early teens she formed a girl trio with a couple of friends. The trio would appear in local cabarets and talent contests, sometimes performing Agnetha's own songs. After her graduation, Agnetha started working as a telephone operator. But music was her first love, and she jumped on the chance to become the vocalist in a local dance band called Band Enghatch.
The first rehearsal with Agnetha, everyone thought it was so easy for her to learn all the new songs.
Being the only girl in the band, Agnetha had to learn how to handle a bunch of unruly musicians.
It wasn't easy for Agnetha to work together with 6 older musicians, but I think he was tough enough.
Agnetha was very popular and got a strong reaction from the male part of the audience.
Some guys in the audience, they became jealous, so it even happens that they try to beat some of us in the band.
As ABBA's manager, Stig Anderson handled a multi-million-dollar business empire, guiding his protégés to global success. But music was his first love, and he began his career as a well-known songwriter and performer.
Vi skriver lördagskväll och Tivets flickans cell har vandrat.
Stig grew up in abject poverty, circumstances that fostered an ambitious young man. With his taste for songwriting, he went on to become one of Sweden's most prolific lyricists.
He started out in end of the 50s or beginning of the 60s to write Swedish lyrics into well-known English songs.
Sånt är livet, sånt är livet.
At the same time, he founded his own music publishing company, Sweden Music. Stig was a true workaholic whose restless personality and unparalleled driving force astounded everyone around him.
I guess he had like ADHD, these combinations of letters. He was working all the time. He was a driving force in the respect that he really loved his work. My mother worked in the office as well, so they took the car and went to work, and they were home at 5 because then we had dinner. And then he went to his study, and he was there all night, playing the same songs over and over again, trying to write lyrics.
Det skrivs i många sånger om kärlek många gånger, men ingenting om dig och mig. Vi läser om gemålet.
Stig Anderson formed the record company Polar Music together with producer Bengt Bernhag. Bengt found their first signing in a newspaper article about a nationwide talent contest. The article mentioned a folk music group calling themselves the West Bay Singers, described as a top act in the article, and featuring a member named Björn Ulvaeus.
Stig Anderson called Björn's parents and asked where can I meet this group, and he was coming down in his Volvo P1800. That was fantastic, and told us about the business. He did a real good job. That was the main thing. Without Stickan, I don't think we had come so far as we did.
Stig and Bengt decided that the group should change their name to the Hootenanny Singers. This well-mannered alternative to the rowdy pop bands was an instant success in Sweden, notching up hit after hit.
I think it was fantastic. It was so hard to understand that we were so popular, and we didn't ever understand that really.
Vi läser om gemålet, om bröllop och idoler. Tänk dig det, att du och jag var med. Jag tänk dig det, att du och jag.
Immediately after their breakthrough, the Hootenanny Singers were caught up in Sweden's folk park touring circuit, sometimes playing several short gigs in one day.
Och lyckade affären, ingenting för dig och mig.
We really loved touring, but 5 gigs within 24 hours, packing up, playing, packing down, away, next job. It was too much working. It was crazy.
As one half of ABBA's songwriting team, Benny Andersson would create tunes that had the whole world humming. But when he first started out as a young musician, he hadn't yet discovered his gift for writing songs.
My baby drew up in a brand new Cadillac.
In the spring of 1965, the Hepstars, featuring Benny Andersson on the electric organ, achieved their breakthrough with a cover version of a song called Cadillac. When they performed it on a television show, they were catapulted to instant stardom. Along with 2 earlier Hepstar singles, Cadillac made a sensation on the top 10 radio chart.
After a month or so, we was number 1, we were number 2, and we were number 4 with those 3 songs. And number 3 was the Beatles, and I think on 5th place were the Rolling Stones. We toured all the time, at least 6 days a week. We were popular, and sometimes it was almost scary, so we really had to be guarded sometimes, otherwise could have been hurt. But of course it was fun too.
After the Beatles had shown that artists could write their own material, Benny decided to give songwriting a shot.
He said he had a song to present for me and just to see if I liked it or not. And I came home and he played on his piano some kind of pop rock song. And there was no response.
That's no response, no reply. I will convince you, at least I'll try. But the expression,
I must say, I really liked from the very beginning. Because I wasn't so sure that the song he was going to present was that kind of style.
No Response became a huge hit for the band, but it was Benny's next songwriting effort that really turned into a life-changing moment for him. It all happened at a hotel in Norway.
Benny asked the reception if he could borrow the piano at the restaurant because the restaurant was closed. So we went upstairs because we was going to play poker. And Benny said, "Please wait for me before you start. I'm coming up soon." And then it took about 20 minutes, half an hour. He came up and said, "Don't start yet with the game because I have the melody now to a song, but I need some lyrics." So I'll be back in about 15 minutes, and after 20, 25 minutes, he was back, and he said, "Okay, we can start." And we didn't hear the song or anything, but next day he played it for us, and it was a beautiful song.
She's a sunny girl, a real girl, and no one can declare that she's something that I never needed, never want to care for.
The number one success of Sunny Girl changed everything for Benny. The realization that he actually had a talent for songwriting and could make a lifelong career in music moved him to tears.
He started to put a lot of work to wherever he were, and he found a piano. That was the start.
Diverting, she is faithful, ain't that all you
With ABBA hits such as Dancing Queen, SOS and Mamma Mia, Björn and Benny would create true pop classics. But their lifelong friendship and collaboration started under very modest circumstances.
never go playing round. Don't get out of line. Never go running round. Keep me feeling fine.
A couple of years into the Hootenanny Singer's career, Björn started writing songs for the band. Although the tunes became hits, the other members didn't think much of them.
Comme ci, comme ça. That was my opinion.
Baby, those are the rules.
When I listen to it today, I think it was better than I thought by that time. I think that was kind of a competition between us. I couldn't write songs, and I thought, why should he? Why can't he?
Baby, those are the rules.
The Hootenanny Singers were on their way to a gig when they were confronted with a fleet of cars belonging to the Hepstars. That's when Björn met the man who was going to be his future songwriting partner.
We couldn't almost meet, but we did, and it was very slow. So windows down, and it was the Hootenanny Singers.
Come to our party in Linköping. The evening came, and we had a phone call from Benny. Well, we are in Linköping now. Where are you? And we said, we are in Linköping. There's a huge distance between Linköping and Linköping. But they came.
Anyway, I think there was that night that Benny and Björn really met and put their heads together. And it was something special.
Björn and Benny got together again a few weeks after their first meeting, this time in Björn's hometown of Västervik.
We had a party with the Hepstars.
During the night, someone said, shouldn't we write a song?
They went to Björn's home.
Björn's father, Gunnar, he said, you can't be here making noise. You had to go somewhere, otherwise I can organize, you can be at my office.
There they put off the things.
We have 2 amplifiers, a keyboard and a guitar.
That thing was the real first song they did.
Okay, they made it.
That first song was entitled Isn't It Easy to Say and was soon recorded by the Hep Stars.
It was my type of song because I really like that kind of, really little bit of classic style.
She's leaving today. What could I say? My Lord, how I miss her.
It was a waltz in a way. The melody is so good.
Healing my wounds and the treetops.
A typical Benny and Björn number.
Isn't it easy to say I'll go my way? Am I the first one to pray that she will stay?
They were close enough, Fernando. Every hour, every minute seemed to last eternally.
In ABBA, Frida and Agnetha were a perfect match as lead singers, each one bringing her own unique singing style and image to the mix. But when they first achieved national fame as solo artists, they came from two different worlds.
Nothing to say.
Här kommer alltså dagens segrarinna, Annie-Frid Lyngstad.
Frida's singing ambitions led her to the victory in a national talent contest, and the arrangers had a big surprise for her. That same night, she got the chance to appear on live television, performing her winning song in front of millions of viewers.
Det var en ledig dag, så fylld av välbehag.
I think she was a little bit tired of playing dance music and that she wanted something more. I felt it all the time, that she was meant for bigger things.
Denna sköna dag, en härlig ledig dag.
Agnetha was 17 when she achieved a breakthrough with one of her own songs, a ballad entitled Jag var så kär, which she first performed with band Enghatch.
All the feelings in the song are very honest. You can feel that she means what she sings.
Tom Edberg had some ideas on how to spice up the arrangement of Jag var så kär.
I liked James Brown, so when I wrote the arrangement for Jag var så kär, I thought it needed a little more rhythm and blues feeling. So I wrote a bridge in the middle of the song. I'm not sure that Agnetha liked that bridge at all.
A demo tape reached the Kupol record label. The producers felt that Agnetha had something special.
This is what we're going to launch. It's a star for tomorrow. Her voice was fantastic. And in my opinion, it was the biggest star at that time in Sweden.
For Agnetha, stepping into a studio and hearing her own song being recorded was the biggest moment of her life. This time, the arrangement was exactly as she wanted it. Jag var så kär shot to number 1 on the charts, giving Agnetha instant stardom. She now pursued her career in Stockholm. Agnetha had a talent that was rare among female singers at the time. She wrote her own songs.
As she wrote the music herself and sang it herself, it was a double happiness for her. She had really high demands on herself. If the public likes my music, I'm happy. And that's a basic thinking for Agnetha.
Agnetha's sense of purpose sometimes came as a surprise to her new friends in show business.
I thought she was like a little sweet, soft thing before I met her. But she was really tough, and she was da 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 da. She talked like the guys talked, in a way. Talk tough. Cuss words here and there, and and so on.
ABBA famously consisted of two romantic couples, and their feelings for each other rubbed off on their love for creating music together. But if fate hadn't intervened, there would have been no romances, and no ABBA.
Här går vi tillsammans för 5 timmar sedan, så visste jag inte ens du fanns.
Det var i naturen vi möttes i vinden.
Björn and Agnetha's first meeting took place one night when they were both on tour.
She was playing in the same folk park. He knew that she sang very nice, and he wanted to meet her. That was the first meeting.
When Agnetha went to visit the Hootenanny singers in their dressing room, she was in for a bit of ribbing from the evening's headliners.
We were stars, we think. We said, you can't be in our dressing room because this is our room, you can be outside. But it was a joke.
Solokvist kan jag elpist ej gå genom livet, för det är givet att en svensk sjöman.
A year later, Björn and Agnetha met again, when they took part in the same television special. This time there was an instant click, and before long they were living together.
Allting du ger mig, du är så underbar. Om jag nu ber dig, så stannar du väl kvar då aldrig mer, nej. Ska vi gå...
The talent contest victory gave Frida a recording contract. After a few years, her marriage ended and she moved to Stockholm, where she started working in a cabaret act featuring pianist and entertainer Charlie Norman.
When she came to the first rehearsal, I was there too. So I know that from the first note she sang, I know from that note and on, it was no hesitation from my father's side. She was in another league. Beautiful, easy-go-lucky, close to laughter. It was a laughter like this, hanging in the air all the time. And she has the most amazing laugh. This number just came up that she should be Diana Ross and that Hasse and I should be the rest of the Supremes.
During her time with Charlie Norman, Frida still kept in touch with her musical roots.
It was just one of those things.
But she still didn't make a true connection with Swedish record buyers.
In the flurry of
I would say that she was in the twilight zone between jazz and schlagers, light melodies. She was a great singer when it came to old standards, the standard songs from the 40s. She wasn't into pop or rock or anything like that during those years.
For whatever my man is.
In my opinion, she didn't have a personality in her voice until she joined ABBA.
Benny and the Hepstars were performing in the same town as Frida and Charlie Norman when, late one night, they all happened to meet up at the same restaurant.
We were sitting down, both groups. It was that time that Benny laid his eyes on Frida and really started to feel something.
That initial spark led to a fully fledged meeting, and before long, Benny and Frida had become an item. Frida was touring with Charlie Norman, while Benny was out on tour with the Hepstars. But that didn't stop him from seeing Frida.
When we came to the hotel, she immediately went to the reception and they had 99% of the time they had a note. Benny is coming around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, because he was driving through Sweden. And if he had a gig 300, 400 kilometers away, he came over at nighttime, even if he had to go back 500 kilometers next day.
Benny and Frida's romance coincided with the collapse of the Hep Stars, who were tangled up in tax problems and musical differences. Some of the band, including Svenne's wife Charlotte, who was now a Hep Stars member, wanted to try a new direction.
We did a lot of, I think you could call it like a pop cabaret. Me and my wife, Benny, we really liked that. The other three didn't like that concept so very much, so we went separate ways.
Björn and Benny joined forces with Sven and Charlotte on a cabaret tour. And they weren't alone in the tour bus.
Agnetha and Frida was touring with us. We felt that they were in the group, but they were not on stage, but they were always together with us.
Tonight the super trooper lights are gonna find me shining like the sun.
At the top of their game, ABBA were a household name all over the world, as well as a finger on the pulse pop band. But as a foursome, they began in a less than successful venture that almost meant the death of the group.
Vi lever med jäkt och stress. Det kan ingen doktor hjälpa. Att folk börjar bli rätt less. Det kan ingen doktor hjälpa.
The two couples put together a cabaret show of their own. Entitled Festfolk, the name had the double meaning of party people and engaged couples. The lame pun was somehow symbolic for this type of show, where most of the material was written by outside people.
There should be some kind of fun lyrics that should start and tell a story, and there should be some kind of ha-ha-ha gimmick in the end of the song in the lyrics.
Festfolk failed to attract an audience, turning out to be a big flop.
I think we all, after a while, we got tired of that kind of concept and went back to the roots. And I think that's what happened with them too. They didn't do any more of that, them pop cabarets.
Around the time of the cabaret show, Björn and Benny released the hit single Hej gamle man, featuring their fiancés on backing vocals. It was the first time that the four future ABBA members recorded together.
Hej gamle man, kan du visa oss den väg som vi ska gå? Väg som vi ska gå för att få komma dit som vi vill nå. Vackert väder som genom Guds försyn, över träden hänger solen högt i skyn. Hör du klockorna ringer över byn, det ska ställas till med bröllop.
In the summer of 1971, Björn and Agnetha were married. Despite the location in a small town in the south of Sweden, the event became a major attraction.
It was like a rock concert, I would say. It was a lot of people around. After the wedding, I remember the audience stand outside the hotel and everybody was out at the balcony and they said, sing something, you know, and everybody was there and it was very, very funny. The head of the community should give a prize and say thank you for you come to Vittsjö in Sweden and get your marriage here. And he was so nervous. I stood next to them because I was some sort of bodyguard. And he gave the prize to me, and that was a very funny thing. Both Björn and Agnetha were laughing like hell about that. He took the wrong guy.
But on the day after the wedding, a dark cloud descended upon the happy congregation. Stig's partner in Polar music had died.
We got some sad news. We heard that Bengt Bernhag, our producer, has passed away. And that was a terrible thing to hear in the morning after all this happiness.
Bengt had been ill for very many years, so it wasn't a surprise in that respect. He was the mentor for Björn. Bengt was. My father, he was one of his dearest friends. So, everyone was crying. It was really, really sad.
Stig Anderson started immediately to work, as he always used. So he suddenly said, I need a new producer. And he offered Björn that job. And Björn says I can't take that myself. I need Benny too. So we had to be two. And then Stig says, I can't afford two of you. And then I remember Björn said, but he can take half of my salary. So it's 50-50, but it has to be both of us, otherwise no way.
Björn and Benny spent the first few years of the 70s writing songs and producing everything from church music to children's records.
They must have been working all the time. They still were working with Andersson, with lots of artists. So I really can't understand how they managed to do their ABBA work, which was the real good thing coming up.
ABBA and their manager did something that no Swedish band had done before them. They conquered the charts in virtually every country where records were bought and sold. But Stig Anderson's attempts to export music outside of Scandinavia started back in the 60s.
Gabriel, I sure love you, sure as heaven's above you. While I'm gone, I'll dream of you fairly well, Gabriel.
Like many other bands in the 60s, the Hootenanny dreamed of making it outside Scandinavia. It was a vision shared by Stig Anderson, who felt that nothing was impossible. He released the group's records everywhere, from France and Germany to Great Britain and the United States.
It was very interesting to come outside Sweden and trying to succeed in other countries. But the big interest was in the Scandinavian countries.
Everybody tried to really reach out of Scandinavia, but it was almost impossible. It was supposed to be English groups, artists, and from the United States. They were the only one that had a chance to make a worldwide hit.
Stig never gave up trying to break his artists abroad, and ultimately it paid off.
Look at the way that she smiles when she sees me, how lucky can one fellow be?
Björn and Benny had written the music for a soft porn movie. Through Stig's efforts, a song from the film entitled She's My Kind of Girl became a major hit in Japan. Suddenly, the door was open to more English language pop songs.
She's just my kind of girl, without her I'm blue. And if she leaves me, people need hope, people need loving, people need trust from a fellow man. People need love to make a good living, people need faith in a helping hand. Man has always wanted a woman by his side to keep him company.
On a March day in 1972, Björn, Benny, Agnetha and Frida recorded the first real ABBA song, People Need Love. It became a hit, and they all felt there was a future in working as a group. Much of Björn and Benny's creative work took place in a small cabin, which they had turned into a songwriting studio. Situated on the island of Vigsö in the Stockholm archipelago, the two couples owned summer houses there. And so did Stig Anderson, who often wrote the lyrics for Björn and Benny's songs.
They were working around the clock. And then they came down and they were playing the music to my father. In the beginning, Stig helped them really, really much in, in picking parts of songs, how to connect them together.
In 1973, the group performed Ring Ring in the Swedish selection for the Eurovision Song Contest. If they could enter the European finals, broadcast to 500 million people, they hoped to gain international recognition. All that remains of the Swedish selection is a private sound recording. For the group, the broadcast was marked by tense nerves. Agnetha was highly pregnant and was due to give birth any day. But to their great disappointment, they only finished third in the contest.
It was strange that Ring Ring didn't make it at that time, because everybody thought it would be the hit.
But I remember my father saying that it was because there was an expert jury, and he hated those experts.
Ring Ring was still the biggest hit in Sweden that year, and it was a groundbreaking recording. Inspired by American record producer Phil Spector, ABBA and their sound engineer Michael Tretov had created their own wall of sound.
With overdub piano and guitar. So we played it twice. And that was Michael B. Tretov's idea, and he changed the speed a little bit on the tape recorder. Without his work, it would never have sounded like it did.
The Swedish radio, they got shocked when they say it must be wrong mixed. They sent it back to Björn and Ben and say, hey, you must remix it because it's wrong here. No, it should be like that.
The group was now one of Sweden's top acts. However, something had to be done about their name. Stig Anderson moved around the initials of each of the members' first names and came up with ABBA. By the end of their career, ABBA had become a mature, sophisticated group that weren't afraid to confront the darkness of Cold War politics or the devastation of failed personal relationships. But when they started out, their music was all about joy and innocence. In 1974, ABBA made a new attempt to enter the Eurovision Song Contest. This time, they scored an overwhelming victory in the Swedish selection, getting their ticket to the finals in Brighton. For Waterloo, Stig Anderson had already secured recording contracts all over Europe.
Everyone in Europe was, aware of what they were supposed to do. And I think that they started promoting it right away.
When the big day finally arrived in Brighton, ABBA and Stig Anderson were excited about the chance to make an impact on the European audience.
I don't think that anybody was so sure about their winning in Brighton.
I was 300% sure that they were going to win.
Suède, 5 votes.
Sweden, 5 votes.
Damn it, they won.
Fantastic. Marvelous. Wonderful.
I knew them, and they won their Eurovision.
That was fair that they did win.
The winning song of the Eurovision Song Contest 1974, Sweden's Waterloo, sung by ABBA.
Stig and I started working directly, and we had records with us. So we went around to discotheques in Brighton and gave them the Waterloo single. And they played it everywhere, of course. Here are the winners. It was really funny.
But in the midst of all the excitement, everybody knew that although it had been a long journey, it was not the end, but the start of an even bigger adventure.
It wasn't just that song. They had lots of songs, and they had a good management they were prepared for this.
Everybody knew then that, okay, we see each other in the office at 11 tomorrow, because now we're going to start working.
Waterloo.
40 years later, they're still as big as they are. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Finally facing my Waterloo. My, I tried to hold you back, but you were stronger. Oh yeah, and now it seems my only chance is still another fight. So how could I ever refuse? I feel like I win when I lose. Waterloo, I was defeated, you won the war.
Wow, very, very interesting how the four became one. And if you look at that documentary from the time they started on their own to the time when they were coming together, it is very, very, very interesting. It's like things sometimes happen in life by chance. Yeah, because they came from different ways. They were initially playing their music in different bands, but eventually they came together, and eventually they came and got involved in love. They got married, and that is what formed ABBA. This is cool. I really like that history. There are certain things that I didn't know about them, and the documentary has highlighted these things very well, and it gives you a perfect overview of ABBA as a group. So guys, if today is your first time tuning, please press that subscription button and also the notification bell so that you will be able to get good videos like this in future. I do tell you, here is the place to be. There are so many to come, and we will enjoy. So for now, I would say bye and see you again in our next reaction. Thank you.